And that's why you never combine mayonnaise and Miracle Whip. What's going on, YouTube? Today I'm going to be going over the #1 DLC zones for you to farm to make tons of profit. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jake, but are they going to be in order? Or how do I know which ones are going to be good for me to sell? How do I know? We got tons of questions right now, and we are going to go zone by zone, every single DLC zone, which sets are good, which ones are worth selling. And here is the little sticky wicket, and that is, if the set is good, it will sell. Now, what you're going to want to do based on the console that you play on, because I make this for everybody, PlayStation, PC, Xbox, NA, EU, everyone. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go see how many listings are in your market. If there's a set that's good that doesn't have a lot of listings, go farm it for a little bit. Take it over, list it up, easy profit. It's just that simple. In the bottom, I will also put the drop areas, so that way if you wanted to farm specific gear pieces, just to save me time so I can help get through this video a little bit faster, because I want to go through every single zone, even the ones that are worth skipping, just because I want to make sure that you guys know, which zones are good. But if I miss any, please put them in the comments below. And are you able to tell where we are? Because we are in the first zone. Can you tell which zone we're in right now? We are inside of Blackwood. Now, Blackwood has 3 decent sets, and 2 of which I would say are very good. Starting with the weakest one, Bog Raider. Sells. It's all right. Deadlands Assassin, though, significantly better. Good market for it, with Frostbite being an excellent set. This set, the new update coming out on console, which is already out on PC, amazing. This set right now will give you oogles amounts of money if you're able to farm it and sell it successfully. Again, this is an area that has event zones. You will notice that in the bottom screen right now it is saying dolems and anchors. However, it also includes events. So for events in Blackwood, that is going to include you going into the Oblivion portal. So just keep that in mind. I will point those out if the set's really good, and I think that you should be farming for jewelry, so stay tuned for that as we kind of go along. Next up, you should definitely be able to tell where we are if you've ever been here before, and that is the Clockwork City. Clockwork City has 3 sets inside of it, 2 of which are, one's good, one's okay. Livewire, don't necessarily suggest it. Mad Tinkerer, I used to use this on a sorcerer for PvP. It is an interesting proc set. It does give you access to some interesting tools, but overall, though, I just can't really suggest it. But I know people who use it, so it is something that would sell. And then Unfathomable Darkness is a set that will sell and make you a decent bit of money. You will now notice here, you may be thinking to yourself, voices inside my head who only hopefully ask probing questions to help make my videos go smoother and never tell me to do anything that's evil. There's no world events in the Clockwork City, so how, pray tell, does one get rings and jewelry? And the answer is actually a little sad. You have to just get it from chests or from doing daily quests. So keep that in mind. Not every single zone will have the ability to get rings. However, this is a zone where I'm going to suggest to you that it's really not worth farming chests because the sets here are not as good as some of the other sets, but let's keep on moving. One whole era before Maroon's Dagon comes in and sacks the city. Gold Coast is up next. Gold Coast has no good sets. You could skip this whole thing. Hughes Bane is on our itinerary next in our little alphabetical order adventure here. Hughes Bane is definitely an interesting one because it has only 2 sets, but you're able to get them both in light, medium, and heavy. It's important to note, though, that you generally have to farm the actual daily quests to get this and the other pieces, except for weapons, which you're able to get from world bosses. This is a unique zone when it comes to that, so just keep that in mind. But Savara's Scale is a very nice set to sell. You'll rarely see it on the open market. It's definitely not as used as it used to be, but I still think it's a great set to sell. Good market for it, and it's especially as long as Dragon Knights exist, this will always be a market for sets like Savara's Scale. So, High Isle is definitely one of the most beautiful zones in the Elder Scrolls Online, but it is definitely one of the more when it comes to sets. Now, this also brings us to an important point, and that is this just had a whole event dedicated to it where there was bonus drops. My sticker book's fully complete. Your sticker book is likely pretty close to complete. Does that affect the market? Because every zone generally has these at some point, and the answer to that is sometimes. Why sometimes and not always? Well, there's the 30-day reset. So obviously, as we get further and further away from the High Isle event, which we just had, there's going to be less and less listings until it will return to a state of equilibrium. So basically, it'll be the same as it being a year ago versus 2 months ago. So just keep that in mind. However, none of the sets here really have ever jumped out to me to be like, oh yeah, pick me. You know, I mean, if I had to pick one, I would say the High Isle set. Being able to get weapon and spell damage increased by 335 for 5 seconds when you're healed in combat. I mean, yeah, it's neat, but overall, on to the next. Inside of Murkmire, you're going to find some other really good sets. However, I will pre-warn you that you are never, ever going to want to try to solo these world bosses. Whoever designed the world bosses and their difficulty must have just hated his life. He was like, you know what? If I'm going to suffer, everyone who's going to try to solo these world bosses is going to suffer. If you want to know what I'm talking about, just go to Murkmire. But the nice thing about Murkmire is actually completing any quest gives you the equivalent of a daily quest reward box, which means you're able to roll for any of these 3 sets. And what do I think about these 3 sets? Well, definitely Bright Throat Boast is definitely a great set, a lot of utility. It is still suggested by a lot of people for a lot of Magicka sustain / build sets. For PvP specifically, Champion of the Hist, it's okay. The problem is you get minor heroism in other good ways. Deadwater's Guile, I think, is definitely the second best set with weapon and spell as a 5-piece, with also giving you the ability to get a lot of ultimate back whenever you kill an enemy. Overall, though, Bright Throat Boast is definitely going to be your go-to. There are not world events, though, in Murkmire, but like I said, with you being able to complete any quest to be able to roll for those reward boxes, you can actually farm side quests to get a good chance to roll for a lot of these items, which is definitely something to consider if you're looking to farm Bright Throat Boasts or any of these other sets just to list on the open market. When the dragons invaded, we were there to stop them, and that is because we are in northern Elsweyr to talk about one of the #1 Magicka sets in the game, Crafty Elfique. Crafty Elfique is second only to one other set in the entire game, and that one other set requires you to use a pet. Crafty Elfique is the #1 way to get maximum Magicka in the game and is overall a great set to sell. The other 2 sets here are but overall, though, Crafty Elfique is going to be the way to go, and world events have returned. You are able to kill dragons to get the ability for you to roll for your rings again, so don't worry about that. Southern Elsweyr is up next, and you are able to get 3 sets again from here: Dragon Guard Elite, Marauder's Haste, and Senchal Defender. Unfortunately, a lot of these sets aren't very good. I will say, though, however, that if you're able to get this shield as a motif, it actually looks beautiful. But the sets here, I would say, are a little bit too niche. I do think that Dragon Guard Elite is a good set. I actually think Marauder's Haste is pretty good too, because applying a damage shield increases your movement speed by 18% for 9 seconds. That's pretty good, but it's just not a lot of people are going to be weaving these in, except for maybe Dragon Guard Elite, into their builds overall, so your market is definitely going to suffer a little bit on them, but it's a very cool zone to farm for those Dragon Guard motifs. Also a great set to go kill those dirty dragons in and get your Dragon Realm. Summerset is up next, one of the most beautiful zones in ESO, one of the most elusive places to go, as you basically had to be a High Isle to get here in the actual Elder Scrolls lore, and you can pretty much skip it. The sets here would be a lot better, but their 2, 3, and 4s don't really pair up with their 5 slot very well. Sets don't sell very frequently, so skip. Next up, we are in the Deadlands, the happiest place on Earth, and it has 3 sets here for us again, 2 of which I would say are easily sellable, with Eye of the Grasp. It used to sell a little bit, when it first came out, mainly for that sticker book. Hexo's Ward, however, has actually found a little bit of a niche in the community, and I haven't seen it sell when I do check through the pages of sold listings. For those of you who are confused, I'll show you when I'm finished here with Fargrave what that means. And then Kind Mart's Cruelty. This is definitely one that I would suggest selling. Kind Marcher's Cruelty is able to really screw with your opponent. It's a very cool PvP setup. Now, what was I just referring to? And a lot of people don't know this, but you're able to pick any of the trade guilds you're in, and you're able to see what gets purchased. So if you're ever like, what is selling, you can see, oh, somebody just sold a Darlek Braze Jack for 6,000. You can weave through, you can see all different types of stuff. Actually, War Maiden is on the list here later, so that's a perfect segue into the next one. Oh, more War Maiden stuff is selling. Thank God I already have it on the list. But this is a great way for you guys to see what is selling, so that you can also see, you know, what are people suggesting and what are people looking for in the market right now. Up next, we are in the Reach to talk about the 3 sets in here: Radiant Bastion, Void Caller, and Witch Knight's Defiance. Going from the bottom up, Witch Knight's Defiance, amazing set. When the event comes out here next week, this is going to be one of the #1 sets for you guys to farm, because a lot of people will use it for its 2, its 3, its 4, or its 5-piece effect, depending on how they build in, because straight weapon and spell is just so helpful. Void Caller, another really good set, being able to stack up and give you a lot of damage. And then we have Radiant Bastion, which is just a bit more of a funny set. So I just think that Radiant Bastion is more of a meme set, but I did buy this and put this on a PvP tank just to be funny. So just throw that out there. You might be able to sell it, because my dumbass did buy it about a year ago. Next up, we are standing below a gigantic meteor that Vivek, a living god, is holding up above us, because we are in Vvardenfell, which is one of the best sets in the game is inside of Vvardenfell. You've actually already seen it. However, all 3 sets in Vvardenfell are pretty good, with Defiler, War Maiden, and Warrior's Poet all being pretty good for you guys to be able to sell. If you just look at all of these here, you're able to see that they each have their own niche in the game. However, this is an area that does not have world events, so you got to keep that in mind. You're going to have to farm chests, which a lot of the public dungeons, there's 2 public dungeons in Vvardenfell, do have decent chest spawns inside of them. You're also able to farm the daily quests in here, also to roll for those jewelry pieces, so keep that in mind if you are interested in farming that. But overall, Vvardenfell is one of the most profitable zones to farm, and Vvardenfell is free. So you, at any point, can go into the Crown Store and get Vvardenfell right now for free, 100%. So if you want to make some easy money, come to Vvardenfell, go to the areas below, depending on the specific pieces that you're looking to farm, and make some cold, hard cash. Everyone and their mom probably recognizes where we are right now, and that's because we are in Solitude. Solitude is one of the most recognizable places in the Elder Scrolls franchise, and we are in Western Skyrim because there are some pretty good sets here. Eternal Vigor, one of my favorite werewolf sets, definitely sells. I've sold a decent chunk of this. Venomous Smite, another set, also sells. Winter's Respite also sells. Of all the sets here, they actually are all pretty equal, none of which I would say are definitely 100% best in slot for anything. However, they do each individually have a market of people who are actively buying for them. So again, if you don't see any listings for them, it's not too shabby to farm a couple delve bosses, farm a couple world bosses, maybe a few daily quests if you feel so inclined, and then go out and list some pieces. Finally, we are in Orsinium, which is inside of Hrothgar, to talk about the final sets in the game that are DLC based, that being Briarheart, Pariah, and Trinamax, with the top 2 being very great sets for you guys to farm. Briarheart and Mark of the Pariah have not nearly been used as much as they used to be. However, every time the meta shifts, it feels like a lot of these, both Briarheart and Mark of the Pariah, springboard back into the best in slot, which for PvP and sometimes for PvE, they've found their way into that coveted title for them to be used as. So while there's so many new sets in the ESO Online game, and Hrothgar was one of the original DLC zones for them to release, I still do think, however, that these sets will always have a market because they are just so widely recommended on a lot of old articles, current articles, and build videos. So 2 final great sets to sell. And as a final point, I'm not going to be talking about the Imperial City sets, as that's not really an overland farm. However, the Imperial City is free, so you're able to go there right now. If you would like an Imperial City farming guide, just let me know, because the Imperial City is its own beast, and there's no real delves, world bosses, and to the same extent that there are, the overland zones. It's a whole separate can of worms that I'm willing to crack open with you. You just have to let me know if you're interested. But that is going to wrap up the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Always remember to leave a comment, because you'll be entered into our double drawing for the month of November, which means that you'll be able to get ESO Plus for 1 month. I pull a comment from a random subscriber and a random goofy goober. So to be entered, leave a comment, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jake Clips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.
Thank you guys so much for sticking around past the end credits. Thank you guys so much for 8,000 subscribers on the YouTube. It means a lot to me, but this video's run for a very long time, so I won't sit here and pad the runtime so that everyone has a ton more ads. So just know that I really appreciate you, and I will definitely catch you guys here soon. Bye, guys.